Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's meeting for Committee of the Whole for Monday, May 6, 2024. I will now call this meeting to order. I will ask if there are any added items to the agenda for today. All right, seeing none, then I will ask for a motion to adopt the agenda for today's meeting. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. I make the motion that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting, regular and closed agenda for Monday, May 6, 2024 at 1 p.m. be adopted as stated.
Thank you very much. I will now call for the motion. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you. We will now move along to the adoption of the previous minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, March 4th, 2024. Are there any questions, comments arising from those minutes? Seeing none, may I ask for consensus then to approve those minutes as presented? Thank you. We now have consensus to adopt those meetings as presented, meetings as presented. We will now move into item number 3, presentations and delegations. NCO Williams, would you like to introduce the first delegation up, please?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. Today we have Jillian Grant with C5 Rodeo to give us a presentation on Oldstoberfest, what they accomplished last year and a bit about what they want to do this year. So Jillian, please come to the podium.
How was that? Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. I'm Jillian Grant, and I'm coordinator with C5 Rodeo and one of the organizers for Oldstoberfest. So that is correct. What you see right there, Oldstoberfest will be taking place September 12th to 14th. We are in a phase of a 3-day celebration. So we're very, very excited and proud of getting here. And so we're very excited to be announcing that we will have 3 concerts this year for Oldstoberfest. So here we go. Oldstoberfest, as you know, we've been known as the world's only Bavarian rodeo. Where Bavarian culture, music, bucking horses and bulls merge for a truly unique experience. And one of the things, again, what we are so proud of is the uniqueness of the event, and this is where we, again, see this as an opportunity to be different, where, especially in a province where a rodeo is a part of almost essentially every community. Okay, okay, sorry. We have video now. Make it full screen. Just that little square there. Yep.
Gonna have one of them large times. Searching for something in these same old streets. The thought of leaving never tasted so sweet. Tonight I'm going downtown.
that was just a little video recap of our 2023, Oldstoberfest. So again, our why, our community, the engagement and support that this event provides, the relationships, including our relationship with the town of Olds that we've been able to continue on and nourish, and of course, reinvestment into this community. We've invested in the past few years as much as we can throughout, and in this past year, we were able to contribute a reinvestment into the community at over $150,000. Our passion, world-class rodeo production. We're very proud of the production and quality that C5 Rodeo is able to bring and showcase through Oldstoberfest. This past year, we had the opportunity to put on a rodeo with the San Diego Padres at Petco Park Stadium. It was a sold-out show event, and so it was very well received, very, very positive response. So again, we feel like that attests to the world-class production that we are able to bring right here in this community. World-class rodeo stock. Old C5 Rodeo is known, especially on the bucking horse side, but again, each and every year with our breeding program, we're bringing more and more bucking stock into our events that we've raised and are top-notch, and we're starting to get asked more and more, and we're very passionate about that. World-class competition. In order for us to make sure that our bucking horses are getting those renowned reputations, we try to get the world-class contestants coming to get on our stock as well, and provide that world-class competition, which also, again, ties into our production as well. Our goals, as we've been doing, to continue growth of the event to its full potential, maximize tourism, and increase community activation. Each year, we feel like there has been some uptake in community activation, and we just hope that continues. So to achieve our vision, elevating Olds to a global stage with premier rodeo entertainment, working to create Central Alberta's most unique rodeo attraction, Oldstoberfest is poised to offer an unrivaled rodeo spectacle, promising to catapult the community of Olds into the international limelight with thrilling performance in the competition. And honestly, we truly feel, at least from the rodeo fan spectacle that we have, just to quote one of the photographers who typically goes to Pendleton every year, came to our rodeo and said, "I will put this up against the Pendleton Roundup. This is one of the coolest, most entertaining rodeos I've ever been to." And our friends at the Cowboy Channel and well-respected folks in the rodeo industry, they know what Oldstoberfest is, and we truly believe that we are going to be one of those bucket list rodeos as we continue to grow and elevate. Broadening horizons with community-driven festivities, expansive festival initiatives. Oldstoberfest plans to embrace the heart of Olds, which I believe we do. Broadening its canvas with town parades, community barbecues, and interactive local events, while extending the celebration for residents and visitors to savor. Building bridges with strategic partnerships, collaborative growth communities. Oldstoberfest aims to forge partnerships with tour agencies, trade expos, and industry gatherings to significantly increase the festival's dynamicism, diversity, and overall attendance. Raising the bar for festival experiences, and for any of you that attended last year, the overall atmosphere that we try to create, whether it's decor, event flow, we try to make sure that it's one of the most coolest, authentic experiences in a positive way that you've been to. The festival is committed to enhancing its production values with larger musical lineups and an enriched array of activities, ensuring that Oldstoberfest presence is not only felt but remembered. By introducing these new dimensions, Oldstoberfest is set to offer a transformative event that will celebrate and elevate the spirit of the Olds community. So again, just last year, just some numbers for our 2023 event. The rodeo payout was $62,267. I believe we did probably over 1,000 pancakes served. There was some local pancake breakfast held. Again, over $150,000 invested into the local community, and over 8,500 spectators in 2023 Again, we saw record numbers, which is what has also given us the confidence to add a third day. So our 2024 initiatives, reinforcing community ties with key stakeholders, targeted audience expansion and educational engagement, and enhancing synergy with tourism. This is just a slide that I've left in here, how other businesses can get involved for community activation. Continue the lobby or window display with Bavarian Your Business. We'll still be getting a Stein created for this, encouraging everybody to dress the part, signage, social media, any organizations that want to have a unique event, promotions, and theme menu items. Again, we appreciate all of the organizations that have put up their hands to engage with us, and we will continue to be working with those organizations. So how can the town of Olds support us? Collaborative tourism strategy with economic development and C5 Rodeo, sponsorship through tourism funding, in-kind support, community services, communication promotion through social media or video content, community facilitators and economic development, and policing. Again, just wanted to thank you guys for having me here today, and looking forward to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Ms. Grant, for your presentation on behalf of the C5 Rodeo and Oldstoberfest, and this really is a great event for our community. I think it's very well received all throughout. So I will now open it up to council for any questions. Mayor Dahl.
Okay, here we go. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you, Jillian. Just in your opening, you stated that it was on September 12th.
That's Thursday, yes.
That's a Thursday.
Yes.
So it's not the third weekend in September then, which is the 21st.
Correct.
Starts on the 12th.
Yes,
Just wanted to get that clear to start with. Thanks.
no worries.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and Councillor Wilson, and then Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to Ms. Grant. And I do have two questions, if I may. The first question, unlike my colleague, Councillor Daly, I do not yet subscribe to the Cowboy Channel. I'm just trying to remember, though. Does the Cowboy Channel actually come here and televise and broadcast the event?
So the Cowboy Channel is actually live streamed through our video channels. So ONET has been a partner of ours. They come make sure that we have the best internet for upload speed, and then they take the feed off of our screen, which you'll see during the rodeo. So Feature Productions is who we get to come in and capture the event production-wise. So then they have a feed that is taken to the Cowboy Channel. So that will be on the Cowboy Channel app, and then depending on the schedule, it can be on the US channel and the Canadian channel.
Supplemental, Councillor Wilson?
Definitely, yes, thank you.
Okay.
And thanks for that answer. And just then a somewhat related question. So you've got an aggressive schedule of events. You know, obviously you've engaged with community partners in the past. You mentioned Uptown, the town itself, and the chamber. So those, given the events you'd like to hold, so you've started those discussions with those groups, or they're always ongoing? And I do support the tourism and the entertainment value that this brings to the community. Just wondering where your discussions are with those partner groups, because you do have an aggressive wish list of events.
Yeah, so we are also working with, so far our conversations have happened with Jillian Toller, with your group, who is also collaborating with us with certain organizations. Our plan in the next couple weeks is going to be scheduling a meeting with Uptown Olds. We've had a relationship with them for the past 3 to 4 years where they've done an Uptown event. Last year there was a puppy parade. I got pictures of that if you want to see it. So yeah, last year was a really great schedule of activities that was going on, and there was a lot of traffic driven uptown. So we're looking with some cool ways to drive more and see how we can kind of get some more Oktoberfest, Oldstoberfest themes pieces.
Councillor Ryan.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Blatz. Through you to Ms. Grant. I have I've always been a supporter of the Oldstoberfest. I think it's great. It's certainly a good tourism driver for this community. And going out and seeing all the people that come and how much fun they seem to have, it's really been successful. Let's just hope the weather is good as was last year, because that was a pretty good turnout. My question is, now you had mentioned right at the very beginning about going the 3 days and having an extra concert. So would that be then on the Thursday night then?
Thursday night. So at this point, we're not able to announce just because of the nature of the tour schedules. But what I can tell you is we have a really exciting country act that will be Thursday. We have a rock night on the Friday, a band lined up for that. And then we actually have a Nashville artist coming on the Saturday. So I'm very, very excited. Really great talent. I'm very excited about this. So we're excited to be when we finally get to share that with you all.
Super, thank you. And supplemental, just on that.
You go ahead.
Thank you. And so then, with doing the concerts the 3 nights, would you be doing the beer gardens as well, the 3 nights then as well?
We're in discussions, but I think that is what we're looking at doing. And we've also put a little bit more money. We went up to 5,000 added for the rodeo as well. One of the things that's very interesting this year, so the Canadian Finals Rodeo is now going to be taking place in Edmonton the first week of October. So the old Oktoberfest typically was kind of that make or break for CFR. Well, now because of these dates have been pushed up, we're actually the first rodeo of the 2025 season. So it's going to be very interesting to see what type of contestants and who's going to be entering, but it's the slate is clean. So we might be getting a lot more entries than we're typically used to, or an uptake to get a new start. We're not really sure what it's going to look like, but it's kind of exciting in a sense. So very different scenario, yeah.
Thank you. Are there any further questions of Ms. Grant at this time? All right, seeing none then I guess we will have a motion, please. And thank you, Jillian, for your presentation, and we look forward to Oktoberfest this year.
I'd like to also thank you, Jillian, for your time, and congratulations on your little 2 boys and their new horse.
Thank you.
I'd like to move that the committee accept the C5 Rodeo Oktoberfest update as presented. See you soon.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. All right, now I'll ask the question. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. We will move along now in the agenda to page 7, item 3B, Corporate Services Quarterly Report. CAO Williams, we are introducing.
I shall introduce the person to your right, our Director of Corporate Services, Sheena Lindeman.
Thank you. As was mentioned, this is the first quarter report for corporate services. So just next, oh, no, that's good. Quick little rundown of what corporate services is. So that function area includes the finance department, records management, and information technology. We currently have 7 full-time employees within corporate services. A little rundown of the projects we've been working on this first quarter. So as council knows, we presented the audited financial statements on April 22nd. Prior to this happening, though, there are months of work that goes into completing all the year-end processes and preparing all the required documentation. So I'd be amiss without a huge shout out to our finance department and the team for another seamless audit. We've also been working on the maintenance manager implementation. So this is our work order system. We have a go live hopefully scheduled for June. We've also been working on a budget software implementation. Again, this is well underway, and end user training will begin in June as well. Will be used for our 2025 budget season. And then policy updates. So as part of the ongoing policy review process, we have been working on updating, reviewing, and creating numerous policies and procedures over the last few months. These will be coming to council within the next few months as well. So this slide is just a quick snapshot of 2023 over 2022, highlighting our main expense areas. Overall, we saw an increase of 2% in expenses, with salaries being up 5%, contracted services up 3%, and insurance up 11%. We did see decreases in goods and supplies, utilities, and fuel, and of course, purchases from the water and wastewater commissions. So the next few slides highlight some of the key performance indicators in the corporate services area. I'm not going to run through each one, but a few of the highlights will be, so first is the tax base balance. This is the split between residential and non-residential assessments. So right now, we're sitting at a 74-26 split, which is considered to be pretty healthy amongst municipalities. The tax collection rate, this is a percentage of property taxes collected in the year. And so as you can see, in 2023, we're at 98% collection. And then the percent of debt limit used, as this is always a topic with council. We hit our peak, as you can see, in 2022 and have been steadily decreasing since, ending in 2023 at 77%. And then going along with that is the debt service to revenue percent. This is the annual principal and interest payments made in relation to our revenue received. Just as a kind of a target, municipal affairs likes anyone to be under 20%, which, as you can see, we're at 7.3, so fairly healthy. Given our debt limit is at 77%, our interest rates are quite low, so it keeps our debt service level low. Moving on to the property taxes and utilities. Our pre-authorized payment plans for both utilities and taxes continue to increase, which is nice. We will be doing another blitz for both of these, as well as the utility e-billing in the next month. New to the KPIs on this screen is the water meter, no read and zero reads. So when there's a no read, it typically means that there's an issue with the meter and or the MXU, and work orders are scheduled to have one of our operators investigate. So as you can see, at the end of March, we had 11 no reads. They had 3 scheduled. They had 3 scheduled, and then 2 had been resolved at the time. With the zero reads, this is a bit different. Typically, we phone or email the residents to find out why, if there was a reasoning behind the zero read. This is typically your snowbirds and such. So after all those emails, they had 12 that we considered to be a no reason. So they've set up the work orders, and we'll be going out to resolve those. For our grants department, we have 6 that were submitted in the first quarter, waiting on 8. So some of those are from the previous year still we're waiting on, and 2 have been successful. And in our procurement, we have issued 4 RFPs. 3 are still open, 2 awarded. Again, some of those were carried over from the previous year. The ones that were awarded were our IT managed services. This was awarded to Reality Bites. And then we had an RFQ for a half-ton truck, which was awarded to Mountain View, Chrysler, Dodge, and Jeep. Looking ahead at the rest of the year, we have a few things coming up. So we will be completing a corporate services business plan. We have our municipal intern starting on May 27th. The main focus of this intern will be asset management and working with the CAO and developing a housing strategy and policy. We'll be continuing the process of our records digitization. We have started this on a kind of a go-forward basis, looking at how we interact with records daily and how we can manage this digitally. Our next steps will be looking at automating our accounts payable processes. And then lastly, we have started a procurement review. We're looking at our entire purchasing program from start to finish, including the policies, procedures, our RFP documents, and our contracts. So also included in your agenda was the financial reporting for the first 3 months, that being January to March 31st. This time of the year, so 25% through the year, we have our 18% spent in our operating budget and just under 10% in our capital budget. There was nothing of significance at this time to bring up to council, but I would open it up to any questions if you had any.
Thank you, Director Linderman. Are there any questions on the Corporate Services Quarterly Review from Council? Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Chairman. If we could go to page 14, the grant section, I just have 2 quick questions here. I did have a difficult time understanding the numbers in the quarter one, the 2 successful, 6 submitted, 8 waiting on. I assume the 8 were because of previous. Do you have off the top of your head how many outstanding grants we have in total right now? Or is that 8?
The 8 is the outstanding, yep. One goes back as far as 2022. We're still waiting to hear. We do poke them every couple months, but yeah.
So the 2 successful ones are on top of the 8 awaited for ones,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Okay. And the other question I had, if I can, real quick, Deputy Mayor,
Is it supplemental?
it's related to grants.
Okay.
At one point, we had a dedicated grants writer. Do we still have that dedicated grants writer in your department?
We do. It is our grants and procurement coordinator. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to the Director. Perhaps it was mentioned and I missed it verbally or narratively, but on page 11, the fuel reduction, great news, a success story. Is that a one-time event? Is there something driving that? And would we expect it to be bouncing back in 2024 and beyond?
Yes, I knew this was going to come up, Councillor Wilson. No, I did look into it. So on average, the fuel actually was 20 cents cheaper in 2023 over 2022. So that was a huge contributor, about 30,000 of that. And then I believe another contributor was our snow removal changes that we made.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan.
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz, and through you to either Director Lindeman or even our CAO on this one. This is on the grants as well, and I was just wondering, of those outstanding ones, are there some that are federal, and if Bill 18 is passed, what will happen with those that are still outstanding? Do we have to report and get approval at that point from the province?
C.O. Williams. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Councillor Ryan. My understanding is that it's only 4 grants that are applied for from the royal assent date of Bill 18. So everything in the queue right now, which I believe there's just the 1 perhaps federally, 2, few federal. Okay, everything should be exempt from approval from the province.
Thank you for that. Any further questions of Director Linderman? Oh, Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, just very quick, thank you. Just on page 13, when we talk about the pre-authorization plans, like, what would be a reasonable, realistic target for us? We're at 51%, we're up 4% year over year. Do we know kind of what a best-in-class or what comparable municipalities are? Are we talking huge step change increase or a couple percent target?
As far as the target, we've already surpassed what I feel is a good target. I believe it was 40%, essentially. I haven't gone out to comparables to find out what that number is, but that 40% is a good number.
Thank you for that. Any further questions of Director Linderman? Seeing none, I would like to ask for a motion. Councillor Daly, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. I move the committee accepts the corporate services first quarter report as presented.
Thank you. I will now ask for the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Director Linderman. Okay, so we will move along now under item 4, new business, page 23, 4A, bylaw 2024-19. And Director or CEO Williams, you're going to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. So, item 4A, the Council Ad Hoc Committee for the Code of Conduct Bylaw Review. You have the draft bylaw attached to this, and that is what is in front of you today for consideration before we bring it forward for 3 readings at the upcoming council meeting. Background, council is aware, but for public watching, that the Code of Conduct bylaw was reviewed shortly after the 2021 election, and administration quizzed council not too long ago with the idea of bringing it back now for completion prior to the election. And personally, we feel that it's a better time to do it, as when you bring a new council together, some counselors, it is their first time as an elected official. They don't have a robust understanding of how the bylaw might work or what responsibilities among colleagues are. So now that we're nearly 3 years into this term, it seems appropriate that council see if this bylaw is still meeting its intention, because this is still fairly new in the realm of legislation. I believe it was brought in as a mandatory requirement around 2019. But any changes to what you see in front of you, we'll happily make the amendments and bring them back next Monday. But if not, you'll see it as it is.
Thank you, CO Williams. Are there any questions on bylaw 2024-19 at this time? Seeing none, I would ask then for the motion. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. I move that the committee accepts the Code of Conduct Review Committee bylaw 2024-19 as presented and requested to be brought back to a regular council meeting for consideration.
Thank you for that. I will now ask for the vote. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. We will move along now to item 4B, Animal Bylaw 2024-05 for discussion purposes. CO Williams.
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor. And Director Andrews with us, and him and I will share this one. It's kind of my fault it's coming back, so I won't put it all on Justin. So, as council knows, you have given 2 readings to Animal Bylaw 2024-05. It's coming back to you today with, one new thing, which is item 3 on this screen, but 2 things you've already discussed and given direction on through passing first and second reading. So it's been a little over a month since second reading was given, and we've spent much of that time discussing the execution of an annual dog license versus a lifetime dog license. And the more we were able to discuss it, we believe that there's rationale for council to look at the merits of keeping the status quo. We thought we were going to able to overcome some key questions around keeping pet owner contact information up to date, still encouraging responsible pet ownership through a lifetime program, and we're just not as sure as we once were. So we want to give council the opportunity to ask us more questions or get more information, but there are 3 options going to be on the screen in a moment. Cat licenses as well. The key thing here is, again, responsible pet ownership. We're having trouble marrying the fact that if we don't have cat licenses, there is the chance that someone finds a cat and we just aren't able to get it back to the owner. So it almost defeats our own purpose with the overall intention of the animal bylaw. So we're bringing this back as well. And then the incentive program is new, that with licenses, there are many communities who offer let's say discounted rates or certain month registrations complimentary should they register their pets by a certain time. We didn't want to get too specific, but we did just add language, or will add language to the bylaw you'll see at third reading, if council agrees today, around administration's ability to offer an incentive program. Whether that is ad hoc or comes back through a corresponding policy is to be determined, but the bylaw change would just add the ability for that. Scroll down. So there's our 2 proposed fee structures. That the lifetime license, which you heard before, starting at $400, decreasing potentially to $100 should several things occur, such as microchipping and spay and neutering and proof of vaccinations. We're also, and should council look at the annual license provision, we're also looking to do an incentive program annually as well. $60 to $35, depending on tattoo and microchip. So the 3 options for dog licensing, we have the annual option, the lifetime option, or a hybrid option. The hybrid option, I would caution, we haven't built out the administration of this yet, mainly with our software, so we would have to do a bit more work on that, and some minor tweaks to our system would be required, but it's we believe we're able to pull it off if that's council's preference. And cat licenses, same thing. Annual is what it's built out at right now, but you could also follow the same structure, one of the three options above. Incentives I just went over. And just for information, things that council brought up that are not exactly in the bylaw, but dog fostering applications, those are now available on our website. We'll be advertising shortly, preempting the expectation we're going to have abandoned animals. The excess pet permit, which you see a draft on the right-hand side, that is now built into the bylaw. You'll see at third reading. Outside of people, it's mainly meant for those people who are willing to adopt abandoned dogs that are found, and how we will authorize those who have more than 3 dogs, which is the limit of the bylaw. And then communications. We will be proactive on the adoption side, which I mentioned, permits, fees, and even a bit more how pet license revenue is spent, as there seems to be some misunderstanding when outside of the bylaw component, we have facilities like the off-leash dog park that still require care, maintenance, and eventually capital upgrades. And outside of that, I think that's about all. Justin, do you want to add anything to this?
Thanks, CEO Williams. Just to clarify, on the incentive program between the lifetime versus the annual, you'll notice that things like proof of vaccination are missing from the annual, and that is because we get into issues with the age of the animal. So if you were to lifetime register, then you could have your vaccination done at the time frames that are prescribed by a veterinarian as far as the age of the animal, whereas with its annual piece, you might be registering your dog before you actually can vaccinate it, so that's why it's exempt, or it hasn't been included there. Is explanation on that. And the other piece is just trying to raise awareness with the excess pet permit and or the issue with abandoned dogs. Again, this is an area that we continue to struggle with, that there is absolutely zero housing space for unwanted dogs in essentially Alberta in general. If you recall, I think it was last week or the week before, that there was a SPCA initiative in Mountain View County where a bunch of dogs were seized as a part of a neglect situation, and the SPCA is struggling to find homes for many of those animals, and even there are a wide variety of small dogs which are typically more preferable as an adoption or a foster than the large ones. So this is a problem that's not going away anytime soon, and so the big thing is for us to have the flexibility to have that in place for people that are willing to take those extra is definitely worth its weight in gold for us. So yeah, that's a program.
Thank you for that, Director Andrew and CEO Williams. Are there any questions of Councillor Wilson? Councillor Ryan after? Councillor
Thank you.
Cummings.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to the CEO. Just on page 30, under the annual option, you have the con of more administrative time. Can the CEO just elaborate on that a little bit? And more specifically, we have the annual license system now, processed now, so there would be no change. Do we foresee or anticipate, and I realize we're not yet into the 2025 budget cycle, but do we anticipate pressures on capacity issues as far as, I guess, maintaining the annual license option, staff-wise, capacity-wise?
Thanks for the question. No, I believe the status quo is still maintainable. The con is corresponding with the pro in the lifetime option, just in that we do have to mail. I'm not sure if we mail dog licenses. I don't want to speak out of turn, but certainly the annual option does provide more, let's say, foot traffic. The 500 or so dogs that are licensed annually generally get people coming in to pay and whatnot, but it's pretty modest amount of administrative work overall. No concerns.
Thank you for that. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. I just have a question with regards to this annual versus lifetime and the fee that we're charging. And I think Director Andrew had mentioned about the vaccinations not being part of the annual license. But could we at all do something with regards to, or do we not already do something with regards to spay and neutering? I think that I thought there was a discount for that, and I don't see that here. Am I wrong? Yeah.
I'll let Director Andrew speak to the specifics of that one.
Yes, so you're correct. We do provide an incentive on spade or neutering, and sorry, my neglect. Again, the same thing. We didn't put it into this new system because the issue is, again, the age of the animal. So if we're encouraging responsible ownership of early registration, then again, they may not be able to be spayed or neutered at the time that they register. So again, it is for debate. We can certainly tweak the language of the bylaw if you, council so chooses that you want to incorporate that. We would just then have to change the language where we would essentially have a dog that would be in the possession without registration until they're old enough to be fixed and or vaccinated. So it's certainly council's prerogative and direction to give us there.
Mental?
Actually, it's not supplemental, it's just a comment, so
Okay.
I can go on, or,
Then, because Council
Yeah.
Wilson, or Cummings is up next.
okay, if you can come back to me and I'll just make a comment. Thank you very much.
Councillor Cummings?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So, not a question, just a comment here. So, I'm certainly in favor of going back or maintaining the status quo of the annual licensing. As for the fee structure, honestly, I think it should be completely up to administration how the fee structure works. You guys are the professionals in this, not us. Us sitting around diddling about the price is silly. As long as you have some guidance from administration, from council saying basically, it's either going to be cost neutral or 60% cost recovery of the administration side. That's, I think, what we should be discussing, if anything, when it comes to a fee schedule, when it comes to this sort of stuff. And cat licenses, absolutely, we need cat licenses. We have to differentiate between the domestic cats and the feral cats, because we have to identify those troublemaker cats, which are the feral cats, so we can deal with them in the way that they need to be dealt with. But the changes you're recommending as administration, I support wholly.
Thank you, Councillor Cummings, and just to add to that, through CO Williams, would this not be part of our fee schedule that will come to us annually anyway? These licenses, won't they be a part of it?
They are right now, yes. If you recall last fee schedule, there were questions posed around things like aquatic fees and recreation fees. So we are doing a bit of a review for the forthcoming fee schedule, which we're still a few months away, to hopefully trim that down a bit. And if we can leave some fees off and more in the flexibility realm and really based on benchmarking, I would say, which these fees have been to some extent, what do other municipalities charge, and if, to like Councillor Cummings' points, we could get into eventually a cost recovery scenario percentage-based fee structure. But long story short, they are currently in the rates bylaw, and outside of something changing, council will see these come November or
Okay,
December.
thank you for that. That clarifies it. Councillor Ryan and then Councillor Wilson.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Blatz. I appreciate you coming back to me for my comment, and that was just something similar to Councillor Cummings. I do think that if it's not broke, why try to change it? I would rather just continue on the same way we always have, and it's been working in the past. We already have incentives for responsible pet ownership with regards to the spade and neutering in the rate, and so would rather just keep it going in the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to the CAO. And I'm just curious, as I'm sure maybe a few of our many listeners and viewers are, if the CAO could just talk to, under the annual option, again, this is just more of a curiosity, the linkage between annual licensing then and how that translates into successful, or I guess, or for us, unsuccessful legal challenges, how that all works? Thanks.
Sure, and good point. So we only had one case to date where our annual license was challenged in a roundabout way. The issue the courts had, and the evidence they wanted us to give, was confirmation of dog ownership, that the dog still lived at a residence. In this case, the pet license had expired, so there there was no evidence through ownership or licensing that the pet was still on the premise. So that's a fundamental flaw in the annual option system. On the lifetime side, if you license your pet, we would craft the bylaw or the policy subsequent to that to put the onus on the pet owner to let us know should a pet not be living or at the residence or living at all. And that would almost provide that confirmation the court is asking for of the pet at the residence. So it only happens again once in recent memory. So that was a probability mixed into our decision here. The other thing is that the bylaws focused on responsible pet ownership, and the service levels around municipal enforcement council has been talking about, and we'll talk about again soon. If we're not going to be as proactive or as spending as much time on things like abandoned dogs or animals at large, then it's not going to be as much of an issue either. So again, going back to roundabout way of what Councillor Ryan said, we might be trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. So.
Councillor Daly. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. Just in asking the opinion of the CAO or Director Andrews, if we go with the hybrid model at this particular time, could you see us or our citizens transitioning to the lifetime license as the dogs, as new dogs come into the system? Of course, as you have more senior dogs passing away and so forth, and then people picking up new pets and so forth, they would opt for that option, and then we'd slowly transition out of the annual dog license system?
Yeah. Short answer, yes. I think the annual license option, the lifetime option has a good intention and will have good outcomes in some respects. The largest issue, I think, it's besides we're unsure of pet owner uptake, because we won't be, it's very difficult to enforce who has a pet license versus who has a dog and whatnot. So there's just the overall subscription problem. Perhaps the bigger issue is that to connect pet owners or to investigate issues like vicious dogs, we rely heavily on updated contact information, and we couldn't quite reason how we could still maintain accurate pet owner contacts with a lifetime option. So that is the primary weakness that I think won the day over the positives that you mentioned, because I do believe lifetime has certainly some benefit as well.
You have supplemental, Councillor Daly?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, thank you. And so in my mind, just thinking that a lifetime license, and if there's a transfer of ownership of that animal, then we have to have something in place at the town office for those responsible pet owners to be able to do that transfer as well. So more administration on top of that again, correct? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. Councillor Cummings and then Councillor Walsh.
Thanks. Just one quick question here while I think of it there. Does the town have, or does administration know of, a low-income assistance program for spading or neutering of the cats and dogs in our community?
I'm not sure. Justin?
We do have a process in place that we have allocated funds for support for spade or neutering. Off the top of my head, last year, I don't believe that fund was accessed directly. And in past, I can tell you that our fees associated with housing of animals, strays that have been captured or whatever has decreased substantially. I believe last year was about a $4,000 savings from the year previous on that, simply changing the directive and the mandate of how we deal with animals on the loose, if you will. So not too many circumstances come across our desk where we were having to be requested for income support. Where a majority of the funds were spent was actually in dealing with feral cats and having them fixed and captured, and that was the biggest cost in the animal program in the last year and the year before that, dealing with colonies.
Supplemental?
Yes, absolutely. So is there a point of contact in the town then, Andrew, or Director Andrew, for persons to contact the town to take advantage of this program? Because I've looked online and I couldn't find anything on our website to support yes or no to my answer. So if I don't know it and if I can't find it, I'm assuming that the regular citizens of our community also can't find it and don't know about it. And maybe that's one of the reasons why you're not seeing any uptake in the program. So is there a point of contact or something we can do to make sure the program's even the citizens are made aware that the program exists?
Yeah, and that's good feedback for sure. I don't recall that it's advertised on the website. Traditionally, the process has been contact through the local veterinary centers directly through to municipal enforcement to make application or grant approval for the fixation of animals. So that's what's been done in the past, but we can certainly look at updating our information.
Thank you for that. Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, I'm just looking for some updating on the numbers. I remember reading lately that cat ownership in Canada is higher than dog ownership. This is Stats Canada, along with somebody writing an article about pet cost and food. And I thought that was a little weird because in Olds, that didn't seem to jive for me. And I'm just trying to remember the numbers between dog licenses and cat licenses here. I was just curious, given that the no enforcement will occur on the cat side, there might be something different we need to do.
And I would be remiss, Councillor Walsh, if I gave you a number that I'm not sure of either. According to our statistics, dog ownership is still higher than cats, but the caveat is that there are lots of cats that are unlicensed to our knowledge. And that is a difficult piece for us because, again, when you see cats around the community with these feral colonies that pop up from time to time, the last time that we did somewhat of a roundup in trying to capture and then assess the medical condition of these feral colonies, part of the veterinary process is that they test them for disease, they fix them, and then they mark their ear so that they know that that is an actual fixed animal. And so that's the accepted practice in veterinary care, especially for ferals, so that you're not catching the same cat over and over and over again. But again, there's a lot of cats that come through that have no markings, no indications whatsoever. And so that's a difficult piece. Are they domesticated? Are they feral? Good question.
Supplemental to that, Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, so I'm just curious of whether we might want to provide a free lifetime license for people who bring their cats in who are spayed and neutered. I hate to use this word, but I think cats are viewed as disposable. They're cheap. And I think a lot of people just, when they go out at night and they don't come back, they just go get another cat. So I'm just curious if there's another way to deal with this.
Williams?
Yeah, to Councillor Walsh's point, I think a lifetime cat ownership, given the anecdotal but I'm confident fairly accurate statement that the vast majority of cats are not licensed and will never be licensed, it may be something to consider. Obviously, I think it should be scaled to perhaps, if it's $0, based on spade neutering proof, microchipping proof, but if it's something council would like to explore, certainly just by consensus is fine. We can bring back a third reading, a bit of research and language for an option or two.
Okay, thank you for that. So is that the will of council that we would like this to be reviewed at this time or at a later date? If later date? Later date? Councillor Cummings? One bite at a time? Something to be reviewed? Okay. I think then that's the general consensus. I think good point on Councillor Walsh's part, but I think this could be reviewed at a later date and see what kind of uptake we get in the meantime. Thank you for that. Councillor Daly, you had a question, comment?
Yeah, I have a comment in regards to Councillor Walsh's reference to cats, and then I believe, like, and I mentioned this before, that if a responsible pet owner, whether it be a dog or a cat, has a spayed or neutered pet, as well as microchipped, I'm just wondering whether it be a cat or a dog, we look at a solution, as Councillor Walsh has recommended there, in that we are doing this for a way in which we can relocate or locate the owners of these pets that go astray or these cats that go feral. And so I think it would be a great idea that maybe we look at both dogs and cats if we're going to do this going forward. And those that don't get them spayed, neutered, or microchipped are acceptable to the licensing then. Just a comment.
Okay, just a comment for now. You don't want no action at this point in time. Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Daly. Are there any further questions or comments regarding the Animal Bylaw 2024-05? Seeing none at this time then, I would ask for the motion, please. Councillor Cummings, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I'm going to try to think of how I'm going to word this real quick here first. Yep. So I'll move that administration return at the next available regular council meeting with the animal bylaw third reading with the recommendations provided by council today.
Well, we have a motion actually here. It says accept as presented and/or provide recommendations to council through the administrative officer. So that's basically what you've said. This is a little bit more direct, yeah.
I'm just having difficulty with the cover sheet response because it's providing recommendations to council, whereas we're providing recommendations to administration on the changes required for third reading. I think we've given them administration the required advice to make changes to the bylaw so we can have it at third reading at next council. I just don't understand the reading of that particular.
So then all you're saying is accept as presented and with recommendations without the to council through the administrative officer. Recommendation
I'll
change.
take a moment if you don't mind to write it out and then I'll read it back so we can vote on it. 'Cause
Okay.
we can change it if not.
Councillor Daly?
Can I ask a question at this point?
You sure
To
can.
CEO Williams, do you understand the recommendation from council? Because we went back and forth here, and I'm just wondering if you have a direction that you've received from us?
Fair question. Yes, and I think a catch-all motion that, such as, council direct the CIO to proceed with updating the bylaw for third reading as discussed. I think because you're going to see it again at third reading anyways. So, but who is this going to cat? No pun intended. So.
The motion
Thank
that I
you.
put on the floor is to bring to a regular council meeting the animal bylaw with recommendations provided by council for third reading.
Is council in favor of that motion? All in favor? Okay, that motion is passed. You please pass that to our legislative clerk, Councillor Cummings. Thank you for that discussion. We will now move along to 4C, Policy Review Program Update, and CEO Williams.
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor Blatz. So, in front of you is you've seen this, I believe, earlier this year or late last year, a list of all our policies broken down by department, division and department, with a timeline on when they either will come for review or a reminder of when they were reviewed. Some of these have a TBD date right now, but most of them we have a fair assessment on when we're going to be able to bring those to council. Marcy, anything else to say about the schedule, or is it as straightforward as it seems? Color coding aside. Okay. But any questions on this or policies in general? Just a reminder that we have been running the schedule and will do so till the end of term, but if there are policies that a council or a councillor feel that are more urgent than others, then bringing them to this forum or regular council meeting for debate is more than welcome. If you think one should jump the queue and have more attention, but as long as it's done by all of council, we're happy to accommodate any emergent requests that may arise.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor, or CO Williams. That's good to know. Are there any questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, Mayor Dahl, you said you'd like to make a motion, please, to accept this?
Yes, thank you. I just want to thank our legislative clerk for all the hard work that she's put into this. It's very, very nice to see come forward to council. Thank you very much. So I move that the committee accepts the policy review program update as presented.
That, I will now ask the vote. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Motion has carried unanimously. Moving along now to item 4D, OCAO policy review. And CO Williams, that's your department?
It is indeed, and these are in fact council policies, so technically your department, but we reviewed them, so I took responsibility. But there's 3 in front of you right now. We're recommending no material changes, just minor adjustments based on administration's authority under our policy on policies, with the caveat that 125C may experience changes based on the notice of motion that's due by the end of the month. The council will have a report on May 27th concerning salary versus per diem models. There's just a small line item in there about per diems, but outside of that, 104, 125, and 126C are no material changes recommended.
Thank you, CO Williams. Mayor Dahl?
Thank you for that explanation, CO Williams. If we go to policy 126C, page 58, I would like to see the Alberta urban municipalities change to Alberta municipalities or Alberta munis.
Oh, thank you for that, Mayor Dahl. That is the old policy. Councillor Ryan. Councillor
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. With regards to page 49, when we're talking about an application being made for provincial or federal grant programs, letters of support will not be provided for application to local granting agencies. So my concern, again, I'm going to bring up, is this Bill 18 that is coming up in the ledge, and whether or not, how federal grant programs would be handled under this, and whether or not we need any kind of special line with regards to letters of support. I mean, in particular, if we're supporting some other, like an HMB or something like that, I'm not sure exactly how the rules are going to apply, and so I'm just not sure whether or not we need to put something in here about the federal grant programs. Because they're going to now, if that bill gets passed, we'll have to go to the federal government to apply for them in the first place. So how would we give a letter of support to anything, or get them for something that the province has got to give support to? See what I'm saying?
You're referring to
Could be.
page 49
Page 49, yeah.
of the agenda, which is the old policy?
Yeah, under standards, when it comes
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, but that's the old policy. Are we not changing that in the new policy?
It could be in the same one.
CO Williams, just for clarity, do you want to?
I don't know which section it is in, but I think regarding Bill 18, not entirely sure it would affect our ability or our willingness to write a letter of support, but also it's not being politically sensitive, but the province doesn't know how this is going to work yet, even though it's their rules. So we'll have to wait until we see exactly how Bill 18 will be executed in practice, whether it's going to be part of the MGA, God forbid, or something that municipalities will have to sign before getting its own funding from the province.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that, and it's also on page 47, Deputy Mayor Blatz, with regards to the new policy as well, so it's in both the old and the new. But so I'm just concerned about whether or not we would even be able to provide a letter of support if, we're getting it from the province. The province has to give us the go-ahead to even apply for these grants now, so it's kind of, well, I guess we'll just have to see. Policies can be changed anyway, so.
Well, that was going to be my point.
Yeah, so.
We could bring this back at any time, so if that bill
Yeah.
does come to fruition and needs to be changed,
Yeah,
the
just wanna-
policy could be brought back to council at that point in
Right.
time.
I just kind of wanted to make sure that we were aware that that's happening and that going forward, that it could be some change in this policy anyway, down the road.
Thank you for that, and I trust that our administration's usually been on top of these types of situations. Our legislative clerk doesn't seem to ever miss out on any of these types of policy changes, so I trust it would come back forward if changes need be. So are there any further, Councillor Cummings, you have a question?
I certainly do, thank you. If we go to page 47 of the draft bylaw and look at paragraph 4, this is an additional paragraph that's not covered in the original or current bylaw. I was a little concerned about this one here for two reasons. One, it's very ambiguous as to what is too contentious, too divisive, too inappropriate for council to consider writing a letter for. And the reason why I say that is because, of course, there's every decision, unless you get 100% buy-in, is going to be contentious or divisive or inappropriate to some people in the community. So in this case, I'd rather have paragraph 4 state who makes that decision, and I would think that it would be council as a whole making that decision as to what's too divisive, too inappropriate for the town, or to remove it altogether and rely solely on paragraph 15 of the draft policy on page 48, which is concurrent with the current bylaw, simply stating that we can not do it if we don't want to do it, basically, and without getting as specific as we do in paragraph 4. So again, we've got two different paragraphs in the draft that say we will not do this if we choose not to, in two different ways, one being very ambiguous but more detailed, and then one not being detailed at all. So I think we either need to get rid of one of them, and if we keep paragraph 4, it has to be explicit that it's council's decision not to do that with administration's advice, of course, but it has to be council's decision to determine what is too inappropriate, too divisive, or too, sorry, I forgot the third word off the top of my head, contentious.
This is our policy, though, is it not, C.O. Williams? This is not an administrative policy, this is council's policy, correct? So this would be coming back to council at all given times, potentially anyway, would it not? Any letters of support that we are to write would come back. So it would be our decision if we deem it contentious, divisive, or inappropriate at the time.
That's correct. It's still under council's purview whether to define contentious, divisive, or inappropriate. I do agree that all those definitions are subjective in a lot of ways. So if council wants further controls or less broad terms, we can do that. But yeah, I can't remember exactly the consideration of adding this, but it is on council to define it at the time of writing letter of support.
Mayor Dahl or Marcy, our legislative clerk, you would like to add some clarification, please?
Thank you, through the chair. It's just council's choice. It's just written two different ways, whichever one they prefer. If they want to use 15, we can strike 14. Doesn't need to, it's just a simple suggestion.
Thank you for that. Mayor Dahl, you had something, and then I think Councillor Cummings.
No, I was just listening to the conversation around the table. I wouldn't want to, and as per our CEO's just explained, I wouldn't want to slow the process down so badly because it always has to be proved by council first. Because you're writing a letter of support for somebody, and sometimes they need it within a time frame that we don't meet.
Thank you for that. Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, and therein lies the difficulty with that statement for me. Right now, this letters of recommendation do not come to council, because it does clearly state that the ES, the executive support CAO and council determines whether or not the letter meets its requirements. And if we leave paragraph 4 in there, the way I'm reading it, it's not council that determines whether it's contentious, divisive, or inappropriate. It's the executive support member that does. Because, like Mayor Dahl just said, sometimes these letters are time sensitive. They do need to be processed quickly. They don't come to council. They're signed by the mayor or the CAO as determined by the policy. So unless, and again, I don't want to delay bureaucracy or make things overly bureaucratic, but if we're going to deny it because it's contentious, divisive, or appropriate, there has to be a limit on that, and it has to be by council's decision how that limit is placed, or it's simply removed. Because again, unless you have 100% buy-in on something, and there's certainly going to be letters of support that are 100% buy-inable, there's going to be contentious and divisive attitudes towards it, regardless of what it is. So it's a matter of too divisive, too contentious, or too inappropriate. And we either carte blanchely say, administration, you make the decision through the executive support as indicated in paragraph 5, or we take control of it and we determine those three things. Or in my honest opinion, we get rid of paragraph 4 completely and we just rely on paragraph 15.
Mayor Dahl.
Thank you for that. I totally trust the knowledge of our legislative clerk. And to that point, you've got to remember that a lot of these letters do come in that cross the administration's desk, either or the CAO, myself, or administration, and they don't even have, they won't give their address, or they won't have a name on it. They'll just be this, number 4. And I'm kind of torn to whether we should take it out or not, because I don't think administration should be answering those. They've got a lot of other work on their plate.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Just for clarity's sake, then, if I may be allowed, by number 4, does that mean that you would make the decision, it would not come to council, or council is making this decision based on whether we feel it is too contentious, divisive, or inappropriate?
I'll preface with, I don't write a lot of letters of support. So generally the letters of support we sign off on are ones that are either follow the policy prescriptive-wise, like it's a grant program that meets a community need, or it's one that council or the town has traditionally supported. Other things, and the mayor is obviously the signatory for the vast majority of those. Other things would come to council if it was a letter, like Oldstoberfest, for example, if there was sponsorship involved, or if it was a new initiative, those would generally come to council, but that is a subjective administrative call. So there's not a fixed formula. So I think in the interest of expediency, just strike clause 4, because I do see the point.
Thank you for that clarity. So by consensus then, is council agreeable to striking clause number 4? Everybody's okay? All right, so then the motion will read as, or this policy will be amended and be brought back to council then. right? Okay, yeah. Yeah. All right, thank you for that. All right, so are there any further questions right now of the CAO or administration on any of these attached policies? Seeing none, then I would call for a motion, please. Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. I move that the committee accepts the policies as presented and request, or as amended, and requests that CAO bring these back to a regular future council meeting for council's consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. I will now ask for the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. That motion is carried. Moving along then in our agenda to item 4E, Infrastructure Policy Review, 501C Utilities. C.O. Williams.
Thank you again, Deputy Mayor Blatz. So in 2020, policies 801, 802, and 803 were consolidated to 501C. And we discussed the overall need for this policy, given the, as we learn, the breadth of our respective utility bylaws now. But what 501C does, as minimal as it might be, it does put into place basic functions of our utility programs, which are emergency operations, the inspection system, and then records management. So there's no material changes from 501C 2020 to 501C today, but it may be brought back as we see how our three utility bylaws, in addition to what will become our drought management plan, looks like, and if this policy has to be expanded or adjusted in any way. But for now, we're comfortable with the way it reads.
Mayor Williams. Any questions or comments at this time regarding the infrastructure policy review? Seeing none, then I would ask for the motion, please. Councillor Wilson, thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd make the motion, committee accept as presented, with no material changes recommended, and request policy 501C utilities be brought to a future council meeting for final approval.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I will then ask for the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. That motion is carried. We will now move along to item 4F, Community Services Policy Review. 903C Playground Inspection. C.O. Williams, you're up again.
Never get tired of me. So again, playground inspection maintenance, which is a solid policy in our opinions. It was going to come forward for no material changes, but we felt it best to adjust one key part, and that is the time in which we respond to safety-related complaints we receive. Just given the municipal workday versus the 24-hour nature of municipal business, we felt 24 hours was not being met based on having no coverage on weekends, no scheduled coverage on weekends, and the on-call system, which is seasonal in many ways. So we think that adjustment to 48 hours will not compromise the integrity of our infrastructure, our parks infrastructure, playground infrastructure, nor significantly put at risk users of those facilities.
Thank you for that explanation. Are there any questions or comments at this point in time from Council? Councillor Daly, please. Then Councillor Cumming.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz, and that kind of caught my attention, actually, and I'm just wondering, with our implementation of report a problem and so forth, if something is reported to us online, let's say on a Saturday morning from a park, that is a safety issue with one of the pieces of equipment, and then later that weekend, within the 48 hours, somebody gets hurt or somebody gets hurt on it. How does that put us as far as liability for the town? Without, being that we have a 24-hour report a problem system, but yet it's not addressed for another 48 hours.
And the report of problem system is designed and advertised as, regular business hours reporting. So I'm not concerned about the liability of reporting through there. We do also have an after-hours line for several departments, which for emergency situations, it should be utilized. It's always difficult to comment on what liability might look like, because courts are all over the board with municipal responsibility. But generally, we have to respond in a reasonable amount of time when we were made aware. So if a Saturday complaint came in on reported problem, there's no expectation that we would check that on Saturday or on Sunday, that on Monday morning the clock would start, the 48-hour clock would start in your scenario. So.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Councillor Cummings, I think you had a comment.
Just a quick question, Deputy Mayor. When we have bylaws and policies in place that reference specific regulations outside of the municipality, like this one, the CSA regulations, would it be more prudent so that we don't always have to change our policy whenever those underlying legislation is changed or regulation is changed, by just saying, say in 1C, annual inspection to be completed as per current CSA regulations? Or 2B, where it says equipment up to the 2020 standards up to the current standards, using less specific terminology that refers to the regulations that are current and up to date. Because again, that's every time CSA chooses to change that particular policy, we would then have to go and change our policy, which takes more administration time, takes more council time. Whereas if you just say the current CSA or most up-to-date CSA regulations, then we don't have to change our policy. Administration, of course, has to track all of that like they do anyways. So there's a little bit less work done in the future. That's a recommendation I'm going to have for this entire bylaw or policy, that we just change that to more generic terminology to make it a little less administrative attention into the future.
Thank you for the question, and good point. Two things. So if council wants like wording change, a corresponding clause, CSA XYZ standards, comma, as amended or as updated, but also within policy 101C, administration has the ability to change policies like that without council approval as hierarchical legislation changes above it. So we could still change this without bringing it back to council. So I don't see the risk is that high. But how often do we check CSA standards is another thing. But I'm comfortable leaving as it is. But point well taken that we could perhaps not for this, but take that lesson forward, that we have a bit more broad language to prevent us from getting pigeonholed.
Thank you for that, CO Williams. Councillor Wilson, you had a question.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you to the CO. I'll just bring us back to this 24 and 48-hour action point, and the CO could help me understand. So we're, I don't know, pick a point in time. It's in the evening on a weekday, or it's in the evening on a Friday or a Saturday, and we have some malicious tampering of playground equipment that presents very much a safety issue for users. So how does that work in terms of the immediacy, and given this 24 and 48 hours, and so it's Saturday morning at 10 a.m. and we have a definite safety concern, safety issue with a piece of playground equipment. How would that be resolved? Is that a 48-hour countdown taking us into next week, meaning that equipment is still there and potential risk to any users?
Sorry, Marcy wants to say.
Through the chair, I asked the same question, Councillor Wilson, and I was told that there is on-call staff that can be reached, as well as most of the play parks have a 1-800, or a emergency phone number that can be called. I've asked that that be confirmed in our parks to make sure that it goes to our on-call for exactly that purpose, because all they have to do, according to the act, is put a sign up and say the park is not eligible to be used. So that's how I hope an emergency situation would be addressed.
Thank you, Legislative Clerk, Ms. McKinnon. And any further comments or questions at this point in time? If you'd all refer to page 68 under this policy, it pretty much states here that annual inspection to be completed as per CSA-Z 614-20, so it's not really limiting administration or council at this point in time. So would anybody like to make any, do we have consensus that an amendment needs to be made, or can the policy stand as written? As written? All right, thank you. Then I would ask for a motion, please, to accept this policy. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. I move that we accept the as presented with one change recommended and request policy 903C playground inspection be brought to a future council meeting for final approval.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I will then ask for the vote. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much. We will move now along to item 5, CEO report and information session, and the CEO will provide us with a verbal update, and then I believe we will be going into a closed session. So CEO Williams.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. I only had a couple things verbally. Today we had a couple news releases go out, one of which was something council passed recently, and that was our rain barrel incentive and our composter program. So residents are eligible for up to $50 for each incentive program. And we encourage everyone to check out our website or Facebook page or give us a call for more information. Second off, street sweeping is ongoing. We hope to have it wrapped up late next week, weather dependent. Then utility digs. We completed finally the dig in the Imperial Industrial Park today, and we have several more scheduled for this week as the leak detection folks make their way through town. Fortunately, unfortunately, that technology is very good and is finding several problems, and so we ask residents' patience as they will see many more orange signs and people in orange vests digging holes. So, happy to take any questions on those or other things, but that's all I had for in-camera for now. Sorry, open session for now until in-camera.
Thank you very much for that update, CEO Williams. I have Councillor Daly, and then I have Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Blatz. And just in regards to your utility digs, have we noticed any reduction in our I&I to this point? As we've seemed to have found quite a few severe, substantial leaks going on. So I'm just wondering, are we noticing our water meter slowing down a bit since these repairs?
It'll take a few months to get the full picture. With the water loss, we have seen a single percentage point, I think, month over month so far in the last 2 months, which is still not bad because we only had 4 or 5 repairs on 61st Avenue. The one today was I think it was at least an inch service line, which is leaking directly into the sanitary, so one of those double whammies. So there's certainly going to be benefits from this. But this time of year, as the frost is broken, water is now permeating into the ground. Inflow problems become infiltration problems. So we are noticing an uptick in overall wastewater volumes at the SRD station, and that is indicative to the saturation occurring in the pipe. So again, we won't know the full scope of our efforts for a few more months. The big test is going to come with the first large rainfall event in usually in early June, it seems, to see if our efforts to date have at least mitigated the overflow events we experienced at the SRD lift station in the last 2 years. But there's been a lot of large leaks found and still more to repair. So we are hopeful we're going to see, don't want to give it a number, but my hope is 10% by the end of next year, 5% by the end of this year. So
excellent. Thank you.
We're on track.
Thank you. And Councillor Cummings, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, thanks. I do have 2 questions, actually. One was about the street sweeping. So earlier when we did the budget stuff, we talked about street sweeping being contracted out. However, I noticed our staff was doing the street sweeping. So I know that period that we were originally scheduled to have the street sweeping come in, the contractors come in, it snowed. Did that necessitate a change in the process that we aren't using the contractors, and it's actually town staff doing it again this year?
Good question. No, we still have the contractor in place. Town's sweeper machine has been in and out of service. Now it is back in service. So we decided we can still gauge the success of the contract program in addition to using our own street sweeper. The problem we're having with the contracted street sweeping is that it's slow this time of year because everyone uses it at the same time. So we are trying to make sure we still get it done in an expeditious timeline. But we do plan on reporting back, hopefully, when we can schedule for summer break, a service level discussion to report on the success or lack thereof of that program. So.
Thank you, CEO Williams. And you had a second question. Can I just ask if anybody else has got a question before, unless yours is supplemental? Thank you. Any other further questions before I go back to Councillor Cummings? Okay, seeing none then, Councillor Cummings, you're up.
Thanks. Thanks for that first answer there. So the second question, I was talking to the owner of our Canadian Tire about the rain barrel rebate, and he came up with a brilliant idea. We came up with a brilliant idea, I think, and that's to advertise right there and then that there is a rain barrel option. And I mentioned to him that, of course, we'll have a application form and all that stuff because we're the bureaucracy. We have to have an application form. And I see that that's exactly what that news release does, is link us to that application form. I'm wondering if it's possible for administration to reach out to, I think there's 5 local suppliers of rain barrels, and offer a direct link QR code or something like that, or even a poster with, hey, look at what the town of Olds is doing, because to me that's great advertising for the town of Olds. Lots of people walk by those aisles and see town of Olds doing a rebate program, helping the environment. That's all good news. And it will, of course, and Mike agrees with me, help the retailer sell the rain barrels if they can get $50 off by coming to the town. And news releases are great, but not everybody reads our newspaper, as we know, or are online. And if everybody who's going to buy a rain barrel sees that sign that they can get a $50 rebate on the rain barrel, I think it would exponentially make the program better. So Mike asked me if I could bring that forward to council to see if it's something that administration can do. Simply have a local link or a sign or something like that that they can distribute to our 5, I think, retailers of water barrels or anybody else who sells rain barrels for all that matter. I don't know if there's more. And that could help the program succeed.
Thank you for that. CEO Williams?
Yeah, it's a good idea. I'm not opposed to doing it. In fact, I emailed Mike the post today, and with the understanding he would print it off. The only concern would be ensuring we don't miss anyone if it's a specific reach out effort with a QR code, but I think if we make it available publicly to everyone, we cover our bases in that way, but we'll look into it and see what we can come up with. Thanks for the suggestion.
Thank you for that. Are there any further comments or questions of the Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And just a comment, apparently, I think I was listening to the radio, and apparently there's a looming rain barrel shortage. So if you're going to get your rain barrels, get them quick.
Thank you for that, too. CEO Williams, yes, please.
Also, we just received word from CP Rail that the track repair is scheduled for May 10th, 8 a.m. Sorry, starting on Thursday, May 9th at 8 a.m. To Friday, May 10th at 8 p.m. We're unsure of the traffic accommodation yet, but there is a chance we'll have to divert traffic off Highway 27 for those hours, which will not be ideal for our roads, but we'll work with them. And so May 9th to May 10th is currently the plan.
Thank you. That's good news. Any further comments or questions? Then could I please have a motion to accept the CEO's update as presented, and then we will move into our closed session. Counselor Daly, thank you so much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I move that the committee accept the Chief Administrator Officer report as presented.
Thank you so much. I will now call for the vote. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you so much. We will now go into a closed session. And thank you, Doug, for coming today. When council, I will just read a little bit of a blurb here first before we go into a closed session, and I'm assuming that we will have our legislative clerk and Mr. Sloan stay in this session. Thank you so much. So, when council goes into a closed session for continued participation in the virtual council meeting, stay online in the live stream meeting platform, and the meeting stream will be replaced by a graphic and music will play. When the music stops, the meeting is reconvening. If you wish to choose to shut down your live stream, watch the Town of Olds social media feeds where reconvening time will be posted. The social media feeds can be found at the bottom of the home page on the Town of Olds website. And we will now be going into a closed session. Could I please have a motion to go into closed? Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I make the motion that council go into a closed session at 2:35 under FOIP Act, Section 17, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party, advice from officials, with all those present remaining.
For that, I will now call for the vote. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you. We will now go into closed session. Thank you. Thank you to all our listeners who have been waiting patiently for us to reconvene. We will now have a rise and report motion made by Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Blatz. I move that we accept the CAO report for information.
Thank you for that motion. I will then ask the question, or ask for the vote, please. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you very much for joining us today, and I now adjourn the meeting at 4:03 PM.